Hi friends, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and it's time for my July TBR Hopefuls video. And I know I don't typically do regular TBR videos. You know, I usually do my game or I do other versions or readathon TBRs, but this month is going to be an interesting month. July, I'm going to be out of town the whole month. I'm going on a road trip and I'm really excited about it, but I have a lot of different plans for this road trip and I don't know what's going to work with my reading throughout the road trip. I do have a ton of audiobooks that I'm bringing with me. Like, they're all set up, they're ready to go. Different audiobooks that I plan on reading for different prompts or different activities and things. And then I have a stack of physical books that I'm going to bring with me as well. It may turn out that I don't get hardly anything done in July, and that's okay. But at least this will help me kind of get an idea of all the things that I need to do in the month of July, and we'll see if any of it happens. And that way, if I do put out some vlogs during July that have to do with what I'm currently reading, and I tell you, oh, I'm currently reading this, I'm currently reading that, it won't be like a shock. I won't have to reintroduce everything. I'll have introduced it here. So let's hope this helps all of us to know what the heck Amy is doing in the month of July. So some of the things I'm currently working on, challenges that I need to fulfill, are my TBR game, are Aureli from the spring equinox. I haven't finished 4 of those books. So I'll tell you all about my Aureli TBR because I didn't actually tell you anything about it when I planned it in spring because I just never got around to it. It just was a busy time. And then I've got a Bookstar read-along book that I need to get to. And then of course, I also have my summer book bingo that I'm currently trying to work on. So these are things that I'm hoping to make all of these books, including my audiobooks, work for. And I think I've got a lot of things covered. So fingers crossed that I can get some reading done. I can definitely get audiobook reading done. That will definitely happen. As far as the physical books though, I'm hoping things will go well there. So first things first, things I'm carrying over. I am currently reading The Comfort Book by Matt Haig because this works for the relax prompt on my summer book bingo down here. And this is what I'm reading with my mom. We're reading 20 pages together every single day. So I will be FaceTiming her or calling her so we can read it and have our conversation. And once I get that one accomplished, then that will work for that summer book bingo. I'm currently on page 82 and that's how much further I have to go with this one. For my TBR game, which I will link up here, I had picked up You're Invited by Amanda Giatisa and I did start this. Didn't make it very far before I had to pick up other books, but I did get to page 70. So this is one that I will try to get to as early in the month as possible so that I can get this one done and move on to the next TBR game round. So I've got that going. Then for my 1 week, 1 shelf challenge, I picked up and started Galileo's Daughter by Deva Sobel, and I have about half of this one to go. So I would like to continue on with this one and get this one completed this month. I also started A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn, and I made it about a third. This is probably the first one or one of the first ones I will pick up because I'm very excited to get back to this one. Oh, I haven't figured out if Galileo's Daughter really works for anything on my summer book bingo. I don't know that it does, but this one I've decided, because there's a big aspect of this traveling curiosity, traveling circus sort of thing within the story, I've decided that would work for fair because there's a lot of similarities between fairs and traveling circuses or traveling curiosity events. And so I'm going to count A Curious Beginning for fair. So once I get that one done, I'll be working on this line. Comfort book, Curious Beginning, and then another book. Then I can get this one done. It'd be nice to get a bingo fairly early on in the month. And then I've got Wuthering Heights, which I still have 2.5 hours to read today, and I will get to that, but I will not get this completely finished by the end of today. So I'm going to work on as much as I can with this one today, and then whatever's left over, I'll finish off pretty quickly. This book has been reading very fast. And for my summer book bingo, I'm making this work for hot because the characters are all very hot-tempered. So I've decided that works really well for that particular prompt. For Bookstar read-alongs, we actually are starting our next series, and I will link the announcement video up here. And we're going to be reading the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which I'm very, very excited about. So we're starting with the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. We are going to have the mid-month sprints and the live show discussion on Paige's channel this time around. So if you're interested at all in reading this series with us, we would love for you to join us. I will link everything you need to know for our group down in the description box below. So please check it out. Come join us. We have a great time chatting about these different series that we read. And we have a really great group of people just chatting about these books. It's fantastic. We always have a really good time. Before I get into all my plans for finishing out Aurelium before the next round of Aurelium starts in August, it turns out that G's actually doing Aurelium in September, which works out perfectly. That means I can relax on some of these Aurelium prompts. I will do them, but I don't have to worry about getting them all completely done here in the month of July, because I can always carry stuff over into August for Aurelium. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the other books that I have that aren't really part of some of my major challenges. One is the audiobook I'm currently listening to, that's Changeless by Gail Carriger. This is the second book in the Parasol Protectorate series, and this is a steampunk paranormal fantasy that's set in the Victorian era, and it's so much fun. It's very clever and witty. I enjoy it a lot. And so I'm really excited that I'm currently working on this series, and that's the first audiobook. It's the audiobook I'm currently listening to, but it's the one I'm going to be focusing on starting tomorrow when I head off into the wild blue yonder. So that one isn't really part of any challenge, but I just started it because I like the audiobooks for it, and I gotta continue it. Then there are 2 audiobooks that I downloaded to be able to complete the Greenbone saga, because I've finished the major books, but there is a novella called The Jade Setter of Janloon, and there is a short story collection called Jade Shards. And so once I get those 2 completed, I can finally cross off the Greenbone saga from my ongoing series list, which I would like to do soon. So I'm hoping to pick up those short audiobooks. And then I have this ebook called Road Tripped by Nicole Archer. And this is one that Mom read a long time ago, actually, when we had our road trip in the past, when we went down to visit my aunt and uncle's ranch. And if you're looking for some summer vlogs, I will link the very first one of that vlog series, because I vlogged that whole road trip, and we read books that were all road trip books during that particular trip. And so it was a lot of fun. So Mom really enjoyed this romance called Road Tripped, and I was looking forward to reading it back then, but I didn't get a chance to. Well, one of my prompts on the summer book bingo is road trip, and I was like, this is a perfect time for me to add in something a little light and fun, because I do have a lot of books that are not as light. I mean, some mysteries that are light, but a lot of my books are a little more heavy, so I'm very happy that I have this romance to kind of break things up a little bit. And then one more book that I have no rhyme or reason to read, except that I am very excited, because one of the days that I'm going to be down in California, I'm going to spend with my Aunt Judy, and we are both big fans of John Steinbeck. We've done the Cannery Road tour of John Steinbeck, everything Steinbeck that's there, because I've read Cannery Row many times. It's one of my favorite classics. And we've gone to the John Steinbeck Museum. Like, we've enjoyed as much John Steinbeck in California as we can. But she was like, we've never gone to the John Steinbeck house. And so we made lunch plans at the Steinbeck house. We can't go on one of the tours of the house because they're only on Sundays, and it's not going to work with either of our schedules. But we made reservations for lunch, so we're going to at least get to enjoy parts of the Steinbeck house. And the lady that I was talking to on the phone was like, if our docents are there, ask them questions, because they love to talk, and they'll just talk and talk and talk and talk about John Steinbeck all day. And I'm like, perfect, we love that. So I knew I wouldn't be able to get to one of the larger Steinbeck novels for this trip, but I do have a book of short stories. And this has 6 short stories in it. I don't know what I'll get to. I've already read Of Mice and Men. It also has Tortilla Flat. I'm interested in reading The Red Pony, so maybe that one. The Moon is Down. Oh, it also has Cannery Row in here, which I wouldn't mind a reread of. I do love Cannery Row. And it's also got The Pearl. So maybe I'll read one of those during this trip before we go to the Steinbeck house. We're going to spend the day in Monterey, and his house is in Salinas, and all of his stories, not all of them, but a lot of his stories take place in that area. He very much focused on his childhood home when it came to writing a lot of his stories. Okay, so now I want to go over my Aurelium Spring Equinox TBR, because I never did do it back when it was time for Spring Equinox. And I did get a chance to read some of the books for these prompts. I did get a chance to take some of these courses, but I still have been carrying a lot of these courses along. So I'm going to consider the month of July summer school and hopefully get these classes completed before autumn equinox. So for the first subject of shapeshifting, I am meant to take the class Mimics, basically learning how to shapeshift into mimic, or learning about mimics that are within shapeshifting. I'm not exactly sure. But for that, I needed a read from an author who blurbed your last 5-star read. So my last 5-star read was Jade War by Fonda Lee. This was my last absolute 5-star read. Jade Legacy was a 4.5, so it wasn't quite a 5-star read. When I looked at this, there was blurbs on here from Nicholas Eames and Scott Lynch, 2 of my 45 Before 45 authors, and I decided that I was going to go with Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames because this is one I'm really looking forward to, and I do have one other book I'm bringing with me that is one of my 45 Before 45 books. So if I get a chance to read this and the other book, then I can put out a 45 Before 45 vlog, which would be really, really nice. So this is one that I do believe will be one that I'm gonna have a blast. And it's about this crew of mercenaries that are all old, retired, out of shape, and they have to come together to save someone. An ex-bandmate turns up at Clay's door with a plea for help. So they're all gonna come together out of retirement and have one last hurrah. And I just love stories like that. It is a chunky one, but I think this will be a really fun, kind of quick read actually. I could be wrong, but you know, I have hope. For the subject of animal studies, I've got Pebble Ducks, a class called Pebble Ducks. And for that, I need to have a book that has a yellow title. And it just so happens that You're Invited by Amanda Giatisa has a very yellow title. And this is about a woman who finds out that her ex-best friend, who she stopped talking to, I don't know exactly why, but her ex-best friend is marrying her ex-boyfriend. I don't know how I feel about the main character in this. She is a bit creepy, so I'm looking forward to getting on in this one and being able to read a little bit more, but that is clearly a yellow title. Next, we've got Inscription, and this was practical on typography, and that's to write down 3 titles, fold it, then pick one. Okay, so I had the spinner wheel choose me 3 books, and the first one was The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I've heard mixed things about Maggie O'Farrell's writing, so I'm very curious, and I haven't read a lot of historical fiction of this nature, so I'm very interested to read this one. And this is about Lucretia de Medici in the 1550s. Her older sister dies and she's really, really young. She's barely out of girlhood, and she gets placed in this position where she's married to a duke and she's expected to bear an heir. And this picture is painted of her, and apparently it shows like the stress, the fear she has in her eyes. And I guess this story is really incredibly dramatic. I've heard really good things about it. I'm very, very interested. I kind of hope this comes up. I would like to read this one. The second book is a nonfiction book, and that's Music, the Brain, and Ecstasy: How Music Captured Our Imaginations by Robert Jourdain. This was one of the options for one of my advent calendar challenges a long time ago, and it didn't come up. But I am interested in this one because it is science of the brain, and I find that fascinating. But this has looked more towards music and how that affects the brain, and it says and ecstasy, because I definitely have had moments where I've heard something that was so beautiful, especially when it comes to musical theater, when you hear some of these actors, singers hit certain notes where it just brings tears to my, it makes you feel so many things. And I have a feeling that this is going to kind of talk about some of that. And then the third book is also nonfiction, a different type of nonfiction. It's more historical, and that is The Covent Garden Ladies by Hallie Rubenhold. This is a book that inspired the series Harlots, which they only had a very few episodes of that series, if I remember correctly, because I did watch a little bit of that series and I really enjoyed it until it was no longer. And this is all about the women in the 1700s who were sex workers and their stories and some of the different situations they have gotten into. Although this didn't get a very high rating on Goodreads, however, I'm still curious. It's a period of history that I'm interested in, and like I said, I was enjoying the show, so I'd be interested to learn more. So the way that I'm going to do this is that I have 3 papers that have the names of these books on them. I'm going to lay them on the floor, and I'm actually going to let both of my pets pick. I'm going to do a pet pick for this. So I'll have Cece or Isaac, whoever goes first, pick one, and that'll be eliminated. And then I'll have my other pet pick another, which will be eliminated. Whatever's left over at the end will be the one that I pick, because I want to make sure both my pets get a chance to choose. Okay, they each have a treat on them, and Mom is going to release the hound cat. Hound cat.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. That one first. I don't know what it is. Let's see. What is it, Isaac? We are eliminating, the Marriage Portrait. And he's going to finish up the rest of them. Okay, I put some more pill pockets on, and now Mom is actually going to release the hound. And let's see what little hound come and decides to eat.
Go find him.
Come here, Cease. That one first. That's eliminated. What was it? What was it? The Covent Garden Ladies. Oh, boo. I mean, I'm excited about this one, but it's an older one, so I don't know how excited I am.
So that's what I'll be reading.
So I've had this for a very long time, and I haven't been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, but I really have been enjoying Galileo's Daughter. So this could be something that I will really enjoy. And then I have the subject matter spells and incantations, and for that course, it's to learn the spell Quick Count. And that's a random number generator title length. So what I decided to do was pick 2 numbers, and I will show you here on the random number generator. These are the 2 numbers. I figured this is reasonable as to titles that have these number of words in the title. And what ended up coming up was 10. So I was able to pick a book that is another one of my 45 before 45 books that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I am looking forward to this one. I think this will be a good vacation book. And if I'm able to get these 2 done during this month of July, these are ones that I will make sure I have a much more in-depth vlog about, and I will have spoilers in it, but I will indicate when spoilers are going to occur, because that was the plan I had for my 45 before 45. It would be books that I'm just much more interested in reading at some point, and that I want to go into more depth when I actually talk about them in the vlog. So hopefully I'll get those done, and then I can put out that vlog. And then the next 3 subjects are all subjects where I actually have already completed them. So I'm going to tell you about them briefly. The first subject is Conjuration, and this is to learn the Blinding Prism. And for this, I had to use a color wheel. And when I put the color wheel up, I ended up with the color teal, and that worked perfectly with Spoiler Alert. And I went through a little period where I just wanted to read romance, so I ended up reading Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and I had such a fun time. I didn't love this one as much as I loved the second book, All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I actually loved the second one a lot more than Spoiler Alert, but it was a lot of fun to finally get to these books that I've been sitting on for a long time. Then for Restoration, I needed the course Regaining Consciousness, and for that I had to read a book that I believed could cure slumps. And because I was going through a Bridgerton phase, a Bridgerton thing, I needed all things Bridgerton at the time, I did end up reading Romancing Mr. Bridgerton for this one, and this was the Colin Penelope story. So this is by Julia Quinn, and this is the 4th book in the series. Yeah, it's the 4th book in the series, and it wasn't my favorite book of all the books. My favorite book so far is still the Benedict book, which is book number 3, but I did enjoy this, and it was fun to learn about these characters, Colin and Penelope, a little bit more about their characters before going into season 3 of Bridgerton. And then we had Demonology, and this is the course Pacts and Contracts, and that was to read a book that you did not pay for. And I read Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bastarica for this. I actually have a vlog on this and one other book for my 45 before 45 that I need to edit and put up. This worked for Aureli because my cousin gave this to me. Her and her husband had read this one as well as the short story collection that Agustina Bastarica wrote, and they hated this as well, especially the short story collection. And I was like, oh good, because I've been wanting to read them. So I got these as a gift from my cousins. So finally, lore was the other subject matter that I would have to study. And for that, you were just supposed to read this short story talking about an aspect of the lore of Aldea. And I did read that. And also I want to fulfill the lore quest, because I feel like just reading that little piece of paper is not enough. Lore is one of the courses that I really do need for Necromancer. And so I figured everything, all thing lore should be important to my character. And I did go through every step just to get an idea of what the prompts are so that I could complete whatever prompts I needed to for each step of the quest. And I will make sure that I do these in order so that it feels like I'm actually doing the quest as it's supposed to be done. So I'm actually not going to go over this whole quest because one, it's spoilery, 2, it would take way too long. There's so many elements of this. I just want to tell you about the book prompts and what I'm going to be reading to fulfill these prompts. So one of the prompts was a moon on the cover or in the title. And for this, I'm going to be listening to the audiobook for Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. I have read David Grann before. I have liked the nonfiction that I've read from David Grann. So I'm looking forward to reading more from him, as well as this is a very important story and it's been very popularized recently because of the movie coming out. So this has the word moon in the title, and it also works for my sunset prompt for Summer Book Bingo, because if you look at this, that is clearly a sunset. At least I believe it's clearly a sunset. So that's going to work for my sunset prompt, and I'll be able to color that out once I've actually listened to that audiobook. The next book prompt is to read a book with portals or portal magic. nostalgic. And for this, I'm going to continue on in a series that I need to continue on in, and that's the Wayward Children series. And I'm going to read Where the Drowned Girls Go by Seanan McGuire, which is the 7th book in the series. And then the next prompt is actually to read a book with a door on the cover or in the title. And I'm going to continue on in the Wayward Children series by reading Lost in the Moment and Found by Seanan McGuire. This is the 8th book. And I do want to read the 2 short stories between the 7th book and the 8th book. So I've got In Mercy, Rain, and I've got Skeleton Song. So these 2 I have, actually I can look them up on Tor.com and I can just read them. They're very short. And so I'll read those in between these 2 audiobooks. And that will get me really caught up or really far along on the Wayward Children series. So that feels good about continuing series. And then finally I needed to read a book with my favorite trope or a favorite trope. And for this, I'm actually going to go with Road Tripped by Nicole Archer because I really do love books about road trips. So that is an aspect of a book that I enjoy. So whenever a book has a traveling or road trip in it, I tend to enjoy it because it makes me feel like I'm on vacation too. Sorry if things shifted. I completely forgot about my Tales from Two Trails TBR because that video came out fairly recently. It was a live video, which was fun. And so I will link that up here. So if you don't want to be spoiled for what happened with Tales from Two Trails, go check that out now and then come back to see what my TBR is. For the Team Pirates, the team that I'm on, Team A, the first prompt is to read a book by a favorite author. And if I read one of the short stories by Steinbeck in this, Steinbeck is one of my favorite classic authors, and I'm very excited about reading one of these. So if I read one of these short stories, that will count for sure. Also, I have the next Lady Hardcastle series by T.E. Kinsey. This is the next one. I don't know which one it is. I have that audiobook saved on my phone, so it's ready for the road trip. So if I get a chance to listen to that one, at this point, I would say T.E. Kinsey is a favorite author now because I've enjoyed so much of the Lady Hardcastle series. The second prompt is to read a book from a book list, and either of these books will work because this is from my 45 before 45 list of books that I need to read before I turn 45. And then finally, the third prompt is also the group book. So you don't have to read the group book. You can just do the prompt, but reading the group book gives us extra points. And the audiobook is nice and short of this one. So the prompt is to read a book that spans different eras. So it has different times that it spans. And Julie picked The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, and it's a nice short audiobook. I'm gonna play this in the car while I'm driving along and finally get to this classic that I've heard really good things about. And it's about the time machine, so obviously it spans different eras of time. And then there are other audiobooks or other ebooks that I have available to me that will help me with some of these. If I can get to them within the month of July, that would be great. Realistically, this is enough. I have enough going on in a month where I'm on vacation the whole month. So we will see what ends up happening, but I'm very excited to find out, and I'm glad that I have a ton of options. Let me know in the comment section down below what you're hoping to read in July, and if you've read any of these books, if you have any thoughts. Did you love or hate any of these books? I'd love to hear some of your opinions. Also, if you have something fun and exciting happening in the month of July, let me know. I'm excited for my trip. I'm really excited. I'm gonna get to see a lot of family and friends that I haven't seen in a while. So if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens in the month of July. Will I get some of my vlogs edited and out to you? Will I get some of these books read? Will I do Sunday sum ups, or will I just do a random daily vlog here or there throughout the month? That might end up being what I do because I have no clue what my time frame, my schedule is going to look like. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.